I have no idea whatsoever why Deshaun Watson is being rated lower than Mitch Trubisky. Maybe Donovan McNabb can explain it to me, Max. Maybe.
And also Mollywood coming up, where the fans, a lot of First Take fans, get to ask your questions.
Mollywood.
4 takes, that's you. 3 takes, not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take, they got me.
Shout out to the Eagles cheerleaders. Thank you, ladies. The NFC East has not had a repeat champion since the Eagles in 2004. This division always up for grabs, and we saw what a difference the draft was for last year's champion, Stevie A's Dallas Cowboys. Now, according to our Todd McShay, he has the Eagles taking wideout Mike Williams with the 14th pick, the Redskins taking running back Dalvin Cook with the 17th pick, the Giants taking offensive tackle Garrett Bowles, and the Cowboys taking cornerback Tre'Davious White with the 28th pick. On that note, someone who knows a little bit about Philly in the NFC East, Donovan McNabb, back with us. So good to have you, as always.
Thank you for having me.
Max, I'll start with you. How important is this draft for the NFC East?
I don't think it's actually very, because you look at the 3 real contenders in this division. It's always Washington is like, yeah, whatever. But the other 3 you got to pay attention to. They're stout on one side of the ball or the other. And if you really break it down case by case, it's not like Dallas last year where, like, they really have everything on offense. If they have a backup quarterback and a running back, and they get them both, right? I don't see that in this draft, especially since none of these teams are picking extremely high in the first round. Maybe if Dallas traded up and took Myles Garrett and they had a guy like that, but I don't see that happening. And Jerry Reese for the Giants needs to fix the offensive line. He has not shown the ability to do that at all through the draft. So, and he's usually not getting the number 1 preference on the offensive line because he's never traded up in the first round. He's never done that. So I don't see the Giants doing that. I don't see Jerry Reese necessarily getting he does other things well, but the O-line right, even if he did. I don't see the Cowboys getting a guy like Myles Garrett. I don't see anyone making a move for a difference maker high up in the draft, and that's what it would take to swing this division through the draft this
when
year.
You're talking about the draft within the NFC East, I think the team that we got to keep our eyes on are the Washington Redskins. Right. Keep your mind. Listen, you got the Philadelphia Eagles with the number 14 overall pick. Everybody talking about when they might draft a corner, or they might decide to go Mike Williams out of Clemson as a wide receiver. They better hope and pray. If you're the Washington Redskins, you should hope and pray that the Eagles pass on him so you can acquire him. Because even though you've got Doxson and Crowder and others, you lost Deshaun Jackson. You've lost Pierre Garçon. Those 2 individuals who are veterans. You got Kirk Cousins. He's franchise tagged again. You know, he's got that money coming to him, getting paid $24 million, all right? But still in all, devoid of the long-term commitment that he really, really wanted, there was some trepidation in terms of his relationship with upper management. You've got receivers that you have to ensure. You've got this kid, Jordan. You got to wonder about his durability. You got to wonder what they're going to do at the running back spot. Plus, you've got questions on defense. Dallas is going to be Dallas because of that offensive line and that running game. And Dak, we believe in them. The Eagles are going to be better because Alshon Jeffrey and who knows who else they'll get. And I think Carson Wentz got potential. I like Carson Wentz. The Giants pricked up Brandon Marshall, and their defense had already vastly improved from the year before.
But they need to shore up that O-line.
Of course they do. But the biggest question mark is the Washington Redskins.
Right.
They can fall off the map in that division if they don't address this draft adroitly.
You know, I look at it in a sense, we talk about the top teams, obviously offensively. You look offensively in the Dallas Cowboys and what they're able to do with Ezekiel Elliott and obviously Dak Prescott. You look at the Washington Redskins, Kirk Cousins still put up great numbers, even with a lack of run game. And then Deshaun Jackson leaving, and we don't know about Pierre Garçon, but then they still have pieces that can fill right into that void. So to me, they're probably the second best offense. The New York Giants bringing in Brandon Marshall, that adds another piece of the puzzle because he can play outside and inside. Shepard, I think, is going to be a star in that offense. And also, now you look at the Philadelphia Eagles. I wonder about their running game. Darren Sproles is getting up there in age. He's going to retire after this season. They need someone who can carry the load at least 25 times a game to take pressure off of Carson Wentz. Torrey Smith coming in, Alshon Jeffries, you talk about it, but what type of players are they going to be? The same type of players that were pretty much almost Pro Bowlers, guys that can get downfield and stretch the field for a guy like Carson Wentz? And then will Zach Ertz stay healthy enough to control the middle of the football field? To me, the question is more about the defensive side for all of the teams that we've mentioned. You know, the Dallas Cowboys, if they had a defense and pass rush to get to the quarterback, maybe they beat the Green Bay Packers and make it to the NFC Championship, which they were my pick to make it to the NFC Championship because of their offense. But defensively, they're suspect. The Washington Redskins, same thing. You lose your nose tackle, then you bring in, you know, you have a guy like Josh Norman who can cover one side of the field. But do they have enough to get to the quarterback? Do they have enough to get off the field on third down? I don't believe so.
That's what I mean. This last year's draft was determinative in the NFC East. In other words, the result of the draft showed up in the division in terms of determining the division. They got Ezekiel Elliott to run behind that offensive line. They got a young quarterback who got to step in when Romo inevitably obviously got hurt very early before the season began, and they were off to the races. The Eagles found their franchise quarterback. That was a huge draft. I don't see this draft having that effect on the division.
You know what resonates with me, though, when you bring up defense? I'm looking for a mystique-altering figure on the defensive side in the draft, and I'm thinking you think about the linebackers. Reuben Foster might fall to somebody because of questions about him. And we also, and by the way, we're here in Philadelphia, but I'm not bringing up his name just because we're here in Philadelphia. Watched a little bit of the Senior Bowl, saw how this dude performed, spoke to the expert extraordinaire himself, Mel Kiper. No one that I've spoken to, whether it's him, McShay, or anybody else, can stop raving about Hassan Reddick out of Temple. This kid can ball. And so when you look at him or Reuben Foster, if one of those teams within the NFC East can get their hands on one or two of those guys, it can change some things.
Well, let me add to that, because now we're in Philadelphia, and obviously I follow my team, and you know, I bleed green and silver.
You know about Philly.
The whole thing about it. When I look at this football team, if they have another pass rusher, they get another pass rusher, they get a corner, and also I'm going to add a safety to that mix. If Adams drops to 14, you cannot pass on him. I think when you look at
Jamal Adams.
Jamal Adams.
I don't think he'll drop to 14.
But see, this
he won't drop to 14.
Because when the Philadelphia Eagles were very successful, we made some plays happen on
Weapon X.
Brian Westbrook, myself. We brought in some other key players.
Johnson.
But when you have a guy on defense like a
Brian Dawkins,
Weapon X. Brian
the
Dawkins,
hitman.
Although Jim Johnson, late great Jim Johnson, is no longer the defensive coordinator, but they have a valuable defensive coordinator here. If you have a guy that can be disruptive, you have Fletcher Cox, your defensive tackle, defensive end. He's able to get to the quarterback. But you bring it up. If Reuben Foster is available, you cannot pass.
Yeah, but you're right. In other words, it's possible that the draft has that effect. But these three teams that we're talking about, really the three contenders.
It's about defense.
Right, and it's also about a little luck in the draft. You have to hope guys
I'm
fall.
surprised you said defense for the Giants. I feel like they shored that up last year.
But they didn't show up against Green Bay. They didn't show. They put a lot. The first half don't win you football games, as you can
Aaron
tell.
Rodgers, brother, what are you going to do?
Well, the
But they
thing is,
have no
get
balance
pressure on them.
offensively.
It's about getting pressure on quarterbacks. Now, we're not talking so much about, these top quarterbacks. Like, you have to bring up Eli Manning all the time, like he is outstanding, which
only in the Super Bowl. Sorry.
Yeah, you got to get
only in the playoffs.
Anyway, but when I look at defense in the NFC East, that's what stands strong. And I can't say that any of these teams that I've mentioned have a strong defense.
I got to tell you this.
Giants have strong
and let me bring up geographics here, because
so do the Eagles.
Giants, New York. Eagles, Philly. Or the hell with Dallas. And then you got the Redskins, and then you got the Redskins in the nation's capital. I'm talking about blue collar. I don't need. Listen, when I think about Reuben Foster, it seemed like a nice guy when he was on the show the other week. We know. Let's hope that everything is all right. But what I'm trying to say is this: I want somebody nasty. Now Brian Dawkins. Yeah. Now Brian Dawkins is a nice guy and he speaks eloquently. He's a beautiful person, but in a suit. But when that brother put on that, I said what I'm talking about when he's talking.
Yes.
Not when he's playing.
He's in a suit.
Listen.
You want a hunter.
A suit.
That dude was
he's
so
a headhunter. I was talking about in a suit. He's nice. But in a uniform, the brother was the hitman. I need somebody in Philadelphia or the Capitol.
Last thing.
Real quick,
I need somebody nasty.
I disagree about the assessment of the defense. I think the Giants have a good defense, and I think the Eagles at times last year were trending toward elite defense.
All right, let's leave it there.
I disagree.
Donovan sticking with us. When we come back, we have some players with character issues potentially being drafted tonight. We're going to get into some of the more controversial players in this year's draft. Should teams take a chance on them, and how will it affect their stock? And we're close to the best part of the show. We're heading to Mollywood. Get familiar. Some questions for Stephen A. and Max from our fans. First take on the road in Philly.